Hey guys, I'm Mustached here, aka Mustached Tom, here to review the movie Six Underground. But before I begin, if you end up enjoying this review, then consider joining my Patreon. That'll be the second link in the description below. Any donations are desperately needed. With that being said, with this review of Six Underground, we start this movie off with some narration from the lead, played by Ryan Reynolds. And he talks about how he himself is what they refer to as a ghost. Uh, and it shows in a flashback how he put together this little team thing in Italy where they were being chased, and there are several early explosions. And you can immediately tell who this is directed by. And once you see the explosions, you go like, that seems very Michael Bay, and sure enough, it is. And really bad cuts within the framing of all these explosions and moving. It's just really quick, like snappy, just like ugly, fast cutting. It looks really bad. So, he's with his team and they manage to escape. And while they're fleeing, they manage to run someone over, so they're not exactly a great crew. And with him is the CIA agent named Spook, or Number 2. I did not write these in order because I don't know if they were introduced in order, but they have Number 4, I believe, was the driver, and 5 was the doctor, or that could have been reversed. I'm not sure because these characters aren't that well developed, unfortunately. But I do know for sure that Number 1 is Ryan's character. So, anyways, there's some generic music, and they call on 4, which is they call him Skywalker, or this guy that does parkour. Meanwhile, Mr. 1 wants an eyeball to gain them access to the location of all these other bad guys that they're essentially looking for. Number 3 is the hitman, who they also get on the call, and they continue to be chased. So, Lady Spook comes out, kills some of the guys chasing them via guns blazing. He also had Skywalker, who parkoured his way down and shot some more guys. And as they are driving away, they start to argue about how they got to get out of this situation. But shortly after they're arguing, their driver was killed in the process. I believe this was Number 6, was their driver. So, we cut to them returning back to the base all glum. And he wants to essentially find a new guy to hire in. So we cut to an army man who wanted to essentially have his team safe, and does so by getting ready to call in a good snipe, but he's not told to fire. And in such, their team is wiped out, or his team is wiped out. So, we find out and discover that Number 1, his original name was Blaine, or he introduces himself to Blaine. Blaine ends up becoming Number 7 of the Six Underground. And thus we cut to the present day timeline. With that, they meet in this airplane that's like abandoned, and they go over how there are like 9 targets, but they're going to focus on like one of them or whatever. And it shows flashbacks at this point to the one guy, Number 1, being a tech wizard. And he goes on about discussing his plan we cut back to 4 years ago, so this movie's hard to keep in the consistency manner. We cut back to Turkestan, I believe the place was called, where they see several bombs jumping in, and the leader does not care. In fact, he is the one enacting all of this nonsense. Months later, 6 months to be exact, we see that one is targeting, and he ends up talking to Arenia, or some lady like that. And then after the fact, he's like, oh, the sex happened, oh boy, because you gotta have the sexy times. We see the crash again, the one at the very beginning of the movie, and then it cuts back to the present. So anyways, so they get to number 2, that is, to move on out. And one is showing off more of his work as they prep up to go to Vegas. So he's listening in while 2 and 3 sneak in, killing in some men, doing it all stealthy. After the job, they have their own little moment. And then after that, we cut to Nevada, and number 3 visits his mom. And he had, as the hitman, took out some guy who had a daughter, a super young daughter. So he felt bad. So anyways, back to Turkestan. We see the bad guy talking about to his men. He's very upset. Anyways, we go back to 4, learning about his little backstory about how he used to be a robber, and how he tried to use parkour to escape. But he was caught and brought in by number 1. So the group moves out to Hong Kong. And 7, being the new member of the team, still trying to dig in for that info on what this team's all about. The bad guy talks to his brother, who's the good guy, and the bad guy leaves. So 2 and 3 travel, and 1 makes another plan about how they're going to essentially assassinate the bad guy. They split up, put some mask on, and 2 and 3 walk in and go up on an elevator. 4 sets up his parkour skills. 7 comes in with some kills, and things get a little haywire-ish. 4 moving in for the target, and 7 shoots 3 by accident. So the building goes on a big old gun out as they catch on to what the good guys are doing. The police arrive. So 7 shoots this water tank and then washes away all the bad guys. And then they zip line down their target, which is the good brother, and then they make their way down. But 4 gets stuck behind using his parkour, being able to essentially move out of the way. And 7 stays behind to help out via sniping, to help out 4, who is on top of the building fighting some guy. So the bad guy is talking to this lady investigator, is like, oh, anyway, after that incident, the other numbers give off their real names. I didn't bother writing them down. So anyways, we see that the good brother's all terrified, but they're moving him along. And while they travel some more, 1 and 7 have more talking moments. And what it means to have somebody by your side, or versus being alone, or whatever. So the day arrives, and there's a little message. He sends his message. The good brother does, as the good guys help him hack into all the news. So the bad guy's freaking out. So some people are like sneaking in, and three like trails gets on the trail, uh, and we see like these airstrikes coming in. Four's like getting scared. Uh, three heads out, and then four goes into the water. And they're all heading toward the boat where they know where the bad guy is. Seven does his gun job. Uh, the others move in. Two and three move in. Um, the good brother stops the message and like gets ready. Um, Meanwhile, number one made the entire boat a magnet, so they have a little fun with having one use the magnet, and they have like plastic guns, and everyone's all flying all about, slipping and sliding all over. They look for the target, and they attack as the boat is slowly beginning to move again. Um, One goes hand to hand for a bit, gets like caught up. One of the part of the boat ends up like blowing up for a reason, I forgot what. But anyways, one and three see each other briefly, and then four gets attacked, and one is the one that saves him this time, because now it's all about the teamwork, all about that character development. Anyway, the bad guy gets picked up, and by and this is weird. He gets picked up by the good brother, and so suddenly, somehow, the other good guys are suddenly in the helicopter with him. Like they just appear there for reasons, and then they catch him. Cut to narration showing the team cleaning up and having their little character development moments carry through or whatever. That was 6 Underground. It's not that great. I mean, I suppose if you're looking for pure action-oriented nonsense, then this will serve you just fine. But unfortunately, there are only 2 characters within a 6 characters, and that's usually never a good sign when you only have 2 good okay characters at best, and everyone else is just sort of just generic, whatever. And I'm talking about 1 in 7. 1 being the guy who's like, no, you just gotta do the mission, and he's like, but the teamwork, and that's what 7 brings him in. So yeah, it's definitely just action-packed, filled with explosions and distractions, and you don't have to develop your characters too much, because I don't even know what two's deal is, except that she's with 3. I mean, those backstories could have really been, I feel like sticking those a little bit harder would have been cementable, and having the characters actually change from the point of where they were from those backstories. But yeah, even the way this movie progresses is just a little too awkward. They definitely could have streamlined it as soon as they introduced 7. They could just be like, hey, this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's no 6 anymore. But these are what the characters are in order, where they came from, blah blah blah, what their mission is, move on, instead of all this going back and forth, and it looks really weird. Anyways, I'm gonna give this movie a 4 out of 10. Or I don't know. I feel like the lack of character development, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10 actually. And with that being said, if you ended up liking this video, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One to add to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are desperately needed. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye!